facing challenges. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmaditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langai Tegadi Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurundinataranam Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. 3 days after the operation, the hospital decided that Tamal Krishna could be discharged. But Tamal Krishna was adamant that he needed extra rest. No, he said, I'm not leaving. And he stayed a few extra days before returning to Juhu. There he lived in the Chetai hut in a tin room that had been used to store books. Devotees brought in a hospital bed and he got proper prasad and personal care while he convalesced. Prabhupada came to visit every morning after his walk, sitting in a metal folding chair by Tamal Krishna's side for 5 or 10 minutes and encouraging him before returning to his quarters. I had enjoyed good health in India, Tamal Krishna later recalled, and to be suddenly bedridden allowed me a lot of time to think. Vishnu Jana had come and gone before the operation, and the effect of his association in India was really on my mind. Soon he regained just enough strength to crawl onto someone's back and be carried up to Prabhupada's room, where he was let down. He flopped over weakly and in pain. Still he offered obeisances. Why did you come up? Prabhupada asked. You didn't have to. I didn't want you to keep coming to me, Tamal replied. Anything to discuss? Srila Prabhupada. Tamal blurted out, I was thinking that maybe I should go back to America for some time. Prabhupada was thoughtful. Why? Well, I can probably quote half of the Bombay municipal codes, but I can't quote nearly as many verses of the Bhagavad-gita. Oh, that is not very good. What will you do? I can preach there. I'm a sannyasi. I've been managing too much. This Bombay case has taken so much effort. We've been in lawyers' offices, and I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours like that. I think I need a change. Actually, he had been considering this since he met up with Vishnu Jan in India, and Vishnu Jana had told him how great the preaching was in America. Vishnu Jan had suggested that they go traveling together in a bus, holding festivals, distributing books, and recruiting devotees. The idea was appealing, and the period of Tamal Krishna's recuperation served to increase his desire. The illness gave me an opportunity to drink deeply from Srila Prabhupada's books. He remembered, something I had rarely found time to do at any length since coming to India. This only served, however, to increase my hankering for preaching. Vishnu Jana's visit had stirred remembrances of our friendship. I'm out of here, he told Drishtadumna, but Prabhupada will never let me go. He knew that Prabhupada didn't want his GBC representatives to leave their posts. Prabhupada considered this a serious matter. Tamal Krishna was his GBC for India, and great progress had been made in 4 years he had held that position. Prabhupada was aware how austere serving in India could be for his Western students, yet without them, it would not be possible to develop Lord Chaitanya's mission on the subcontinent. Before going to America, he had tried, but without success. Now that he had positive results, he was reluctant to change course and keep a tight rein on his disciples' movements. Tamal Krishna was an authority figure, and anything he did would set a precedent. He left India, others might follow. Still, Prabhupada did not make an immediate decision. Tamal Krishna spoke with him several times about the proposal, and finally, after a few days, although he had at first been reluctant, Prabhupada concluded that a brief change might be beneficial. Yes, he said, we can always pay a manager, but preaching is a matter of realization. He stressed how important preaching was to the movement. Without it, he said, ISKCON will become rubbish. The management will be at our fingertips if the devotees simply follow the rules, chant, take prasad, preaching is first. Prabhupada told Tamal about how he had left home to preach. I was always thinking, how could I benefit everyone? As the Bhagavad-gita says, Sarva Bhutanam. Unless one has come to this realization, how can he be a representative of God? I never had any national or humanitarian concerns, but concern for all living entities. Even at home as a householder, I was preaching and people were coming. But my family members were upstairs taking tea. I was very angry with them. I told my wife, you either give up tea or you lose your husband. She thought I was joking, but I was determined, and I took sannyas. The family took it as a great shock, but now I'm fully satisfied. It is our good fortune that you had this disagreement with your wife and that she chose tea instead of you, Tamal said, because now we are all saved. Go and preach and remain active, Prabhupada said, and when you are old enough, you can go and sit down in Mayapur and simply chant Hare Krishna. But, Srila Prabhupada, Tamal said, what does old enough mean? That has to be judged by the individual. As for myself, I'm not so old. Then, said Satsvarup, who was sitting with them, we also will follow your example and never say that we are old enough to stop preaching. Prabhupada called me to his room to give me his blessings and final directions. Tamal Krishna later recalled, because we would be separated for some time. Now that I would be outside of India, his instructions to me was surprisingly simple. Learn from Vishnu Jan how to perform traveling sankirtan from city to city. Then take a van with some brahmacharis, travel and distribute books. So this is actually the program that was there in America, devotees would travel in vans and distribute books. After Tamal Krishna Maharaj left India and a new GBC came, he joined with Vishnu Jan Maharaj, who had one bus, and they got another bus, and another bus, and another bus, and they had 4 buses. And in each bus, what they did was, these were big buses that had seats in them for taking passengers. So they removed all the seats, maybe 50 seats. They removed all the seats. And inside the bus, they made an altar and a kitchen and a temple room. So each bus, one bus had Radha Damodar, Deities, and the other 3 buses had Gaur-Nitai, sets of Gaur-Nitai Deities. So there would be a bus leader, and the bus would go to colleges and universities in America, and they would do kirtan nearby the campus or sometimes on the campus, and they would distribute prasadam to the students while they were chanting Hare Krishna. They would distribute halava, puris, and a special nectar drink. And that nectar drink was, they would take buttermilk and strawberries and orange juice. And they would mix that together, put some sugar in it. Strawberries, buttermilk, and orange juice. So they would distribute halava, puris, and the nectar drink. And that way they attracted many students to the kirtan. And besides this activity, the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, each bus had connected to it 5 or 6 vans. And in the vans, there were at least 6 or 7 devotees in each van. So there was approximately 30 devotees in the vans and 4 or 5 devotees staying in the bus. The devotees in the vans would go out to different places from the bus and distribute books in shopping malls, at stoplights, in different places. And after some time, the vans would come back to the bus for charging up their spiritual energy. There would be big kirtan and lots of nice prasada. So in this way, the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party expanded like anything. And this all happened after Tamal Krishna Maharaj left India as the GBC and went to America to join his friend Vishnu Jan Swami. But then Prabhupada's problem was, who was going to replace Tamal Krishna? Because he had tried other GBCs, but they couldn't stay here for long. Bhagavan had came and left, Madhuvisa had came and left, Ramananda had came and left, and Tamal at least had stayed. So what was he going to do? He had to think. On April 18th, Prabhupada left Bombay for Hyderabad, and there too he spoke about the police commissioner's statement. In Bombay, our temple construction has been refused by the commissioner of police. Why? Because we chant Hare Krishna. They have openly written that bhajan is a nuisance. You see, this is our position. Krishna, Bhagavan says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam. This bhajan word is there. 4 kinds of people engage in bhajan. Who are they? Sukritino Arjuna, those who are pious. And now bhajan is a nuisance? The Vedic scriptures say that bhajan is performed by pious men. And now bhajan is a nuisance? Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha drida brataha. These are the statements of Vedic literature. Who is a Mahatma? Mahatmanas tumam partam daivim prakritim ashritaha. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha drida vrataha. These are Mahatmas, nitya yukta upasate. But at the present moment, not at the present moment, from time immemorial this has been going on. As soon as you become a devotee, as soon as you are inclined to take part in bhajan, you will have so many enemies. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended that you tolerate. You cannot give up your bhajan and Krishna consciousness. That is not possible. Tolerate. Trinadapi. What is the process of toleration? Trinadapi sunichena, purorapi sahisnuna, amanena manadena, kirtaniya sada hari. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 17, text 31. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. After 10 days in Hyderabad and Tirupati, Prabhupada returned to Bombay. On his first morning walk, he explained why he felt that in pursuance of Krishna's mission, it was his duty to expose fake swamis, yogis, sadhus, and all sorts of other religious and political so-called leaders. I had read aloud from the Krishna book that Krishna had advented himself just to kill all undesirable elements in the world. And Prabhupada responded, yes, similarly, this movement is advented to kill all the so-called yogis, swamis, avatars, philosophers, commentators, rascals. We have to kill them. Kill means vanquish all these rascals, so-called swamis. People challenge me, why do you criticize others? Because we have to vanquish them. Now these people cannot come up. When there is a sunrise, there's no use of the glowworms. This Krishna consciousness movement is Krishna himself. Therefore, they must be finished all over the world. The so-called religionists, so-called philosophers, so-called avatars, swamis and yogis, finished. Our program should be like that. When Krishna had confronted the Kaliya demon, I had read his devotees, the Brajbasis, had felt transcendental anxiety. Does the sentiment of anxiety or fear for Krishna's welfare exist in the spiritual world, in Goloka, I asked? Yes, Prabhupada explained. That is separation. The gopis are full of anxiety. Oh, Krishna has gone to the pasturing ground. Their anxiety is there. Rukmini was thinking, oh, Krishna may give me up. He is talking in that way. She fainted. So anxiety is there. The anxiety that one may be separated from Krishna, that is the anxiety. Actually, there's no separation, only feeling of separation out of ecstatic love. One who has got love for another person, beloved, always thinks, my beloved may not be separated from me. This is the ecstasy of love. Just like a miser who has much wealth always thinks, my money may not be lost. My money may not be lost. Out of excessive attachment for the money, he thinks like that. How shall I protect this money? To earn money is troublesome. To keep money is troublesome. And when it's lost, that is also troublesome. This is the position. But with Krishna, there's no such thing as loss. The topic turned to devotees' sufferings. O Lord, I read, you have descended especially for the purpose of annihilating all kinds of disturbing elements within the world. And because you are the absolute truth, there's no difference between your mercy and your punishment. The surgical operation is there, Prabhupada explained. The knife is being used on the patient's body, but that means he's getting relief. It is not punishment. Is that benefit coming in all suffering, I asked, or only when it's given by Krishna? When there is suffering given by Krishna, therefore a devotee does not take suffering seriously. Tateno kampang shushushmik shamanina. A devotee thinks it is the favor of Krishna that he has put me into suffering. They never see suffering as suffering. It is Krishna's favor. That is a devotee's vision. It is actually like a son who knows his father well. If the father slaps the son never protests. He knows it is good for me. Similarly, a devotee is never disturbed when there is suffering given by Krishna. A karmi's suffering is just like the laws of the karmi is different. He is suffering like a criminal is suffering. A criminal is given a slap by the police, but that slap and the father's slap are different, although they look the same. There is a great difference. So there is no benefit to suffering unless it's connected with Krishna. Satsvarupa asked, yes, therefore we should fully surrender to Krishna. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Morabi Rakovi Jo Ichum Tohar. Now I surrender. Now if you want to maintain me, that's all right. And if you want to kill me, that's also all right. This is surrender. It is not business. If you maintain me, then I surrender. If you kill me, then I do not. It is not like that. Murabi Rakobi Jo Ichu Torah. Now, as you like, if you want to maintain me, that is good. If you want to kill me, that is also good. This is the devotee's view. So this is an important lesson for all devotees. It's kind of like a thermometer. You can test your level of fever by thermometer. What they say in thermometer. In America they say thermometer. So if you got fever, you can see how high the fever is, or if you're normal health. So this particular mood of a devotee is very important. It's very important. We all get trouble. We all have different situations, right? That are not so, at least we feel favorable. Not favorable, right? But the devotee sees this as the mercy of Krishna. If we're not seeing this as the mercy of Krishna, but rather as devotees, we're seeing, oh, this devotee did this, or this devotee said that, I don't like it. So what does it mean? It means we still have the materialistic fever. Right? We're not in our normal condition. Normal condition is we see samukshamani na. We see this is for my benefit. Krishna has given me this suffering so I can make some advancement in devotional service. Right? So that way it helps us gauge where we actually stand. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's praying to Krishna. It's not some sentimental word that he's saying. Morabi, Rakobi. You can kill me or you can keep me. He considered himself like a sold-out animal. The sold-out animal you can keep nicely or you can cut. Huh? The animal has no choice. So the devotee that is actually surrendered to Krishna is like that. Krishna can do what he likes. But at the same time, Krishna always protects his devotee. So whatever situation we're put in, the devotee sees it's coming from Krishna, he accepts that. He accepts that for his own benefit. And he doesn't become disturbed. He continues to do his service to Krishna, whatever that service may be. Satsvarup brought up that somehow, someone might say, but if one is surrendered, why should Krishna give him trouble? Yes, Prabhupada said, because he's always free. Why do you make Krishna dependent on your so-called goodwill, that Krishna has to always give me pleasure? This is sense gratification, that you approach Krishna for your comfort. That's not bhakti. That is sense gratification. Prahlad Maharaj was given suffering by his father so harshly, but he never said, oh, I'm a devotee of Krishna, and he is giving me so much trouble. Oh, give it up. He never said that. Neither he asked Krishna to come and save him. The Pandavas were always with Krishna and they were suffering. They never asked Krishna, you are supreme, so why are we suffering? They never said, this is Krishna Bhakti. SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple. Gornitai Sitaram Lakshman Haran Ki Jai. So bhakti is not an easy thing. It's not something that should be taken lightly. Okay? And just because you put on tilak and have kantimala and japamala, you may even be chanting Hare Krishna, doesn't mean you have bhakti. Doesn't mean you have bhakti. Bhakti comes after lots of efforts, lots of tribulations and anxieties. And only when we begin to see these tribulations and anxieties as coming from Krishna, then we can think we have bhakti. We may think we have bhakti, but we don't have bhakti. Trouble comes and we think, अरे बदमाश ऐसा बोला मुझे, उसको मालूम नहीं हम कौन है. Then, where's your bhakti? That time? Krishna sends somebody who don't want to listen to you, and you're thinking, oh, this is a badmash. I say, hey, right? I am an authority, I'm not listening. Mandir se bahar jao. That's bhakti. No. One story. I met in New York in the year 1978 or 79 one Bengali devotee. He's a scientist, Dr. Roy Chaudhary. Sukumar Roy Chaudhary was his full name. So he told me a story. He worked for the city of New York, and he had developed a patent for bio entities, right? Bacteria that used to eat garbage. In New York, there's a lot of garbage. And they have a policy in America, even if you work for a company, you can still file the patent on your behalf. So he had a patent for this biobacteria that ate garbage. And he was employed with the city of New York, Dr. Roy Chaudhary. Very nice gentleman. This was in 78. So he told me that when he was only 16 or 17, he lived in Bangladesh, but his mother had sent him to India for education. Better schools were there in India. Then Bangladesh, at that time it was West Pakistan, or East Pakistan. So she put him in a Gaudiya Math temple, and from there he was going to school. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada, he was still wearing white. He was living in this godbrother's mutt. And there was one devotee in the temple who was a big troublemaker. They used to call him Bhakta, who wasn't initiated, but he had a very rough character, pretty rough. So one day, the brahmacharis, and he came with the brahmacharis, they said, come, we're going to the in charge. So they came in front of Prabhupada's godbrother, and Prabhupada was also sitting there, and they complained against this bhakta. So the in charge of the mutt, he said, so what do you want me to do? They said he should be thrown out of the temple. So Prabhupada, that time, he stood up and he began to walk out of the room. So they asked him, where are you going? Where are you going? Prabhu, where are you going? He said, no, if we, by our actions, can't change this bhakta, he should not leave, we should leave. So this Dr. Sukumar Roy Chaudhary, he always remembered that. So many things. He got his education, he went to New York. Now it's 1976, and the first New York Rath Yatra was going down Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue is like the most luxurious street in New York City. Prabhupada calls New York is the greatest city in the world, and Fifth Avenue is the greatest street in New York. And the Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath was going. So he saw, the first time he saw, he said, that's the same person that was there when I was a kid in the mutt. I would like to meet him. He had grown up and educated and working for New York City. So much time had passed. So he approached the devotees. So on 55th Street, that time in Manhattan, they had a skyscraper, 11-story building. They were there. Radha Govinda was there, Lord Jagannath, Gaur-Nitai. Tremendous kirtans were happening in that 55th Street temple. And devotees daily were going out on Harinam, book distribution. So many activities were there in 55th Street. So they, he's an educated person, and they brought him to Srila Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada, he came and he offered his pranams, and Prabhupada said, oh, I know you. You were in that godbrother's mutt back in that day. And this Roy Chaudhary was shocked that how Srila Prabhupada, he was only 17, 18, and so much change, and from that time to this time, still he remembered it. How it was possible. Anyway, that's just one story that I heard from Dr. Roy Chaudhary that impresses upon the power of bhakti, right? By Krishna's mercy, one can develop bhakti, not by our own endeavor. Somehow or another, devotees think and aspire to attract the mercy of Krishna. Right? Because it's only possible, bhaktyamam abhijananti. Only from Krishna you can become to the platform of having devotion, attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. Huh? Not by our own efforts. Of course, we have to endeavor for that. And we have to perform the activities of Krishna's, the instructions of Krishna's devotees so that we can come to that platform. But ultimately, we need the mercy of Krishna. Because you are the absolute truth, there's no difference between your mercy and punishment, I repeated. Yes, this is to be understood. If we understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, absolute truth, then this is the understanding, that either suffering or enjoying, it's all Krishna's mercy. There must be some purpose. When Krishna puts me into suffering, there must be some purpose. So we should welcome it, because it is Krishna's mercy. Tatteno kampang susamikshamani no bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. I should have been suffering more for my misdeeds. It is Krishna's mercy that he's reforming me with only slight suffering. I would have suffered very greatly on account of my past deeds, but he's kindly accommodated me by giving me a little suffering, that's all. I felt humbled. I realized how far I had to go to reach the stage of full surrender, of pure devotional service. Yet, I also felt grateful that I was under the merciful protection of Krishna and his most merciful representative, Srila Prabhupada. Things had quieted down in Juhu, and every night I visited Prabhupada in his quarters, reported on my activities, and received his instructions, the high point of my days. Flushed with enthusiasm one evening after a day of meeting people in Bombay, I told him, I like preaching very much. Not I like preaching, Prabhupada said, but preaching is my life. Another evening, after a long day in the city, having as usual traveled there and back in the crowded trains and to and from the train station in a crowded bus, and not having had anything to eat since morning, I staggered up to Prabhupada's room, exhausted. Prabhupada looked at me and asked, "How are you feeling?" Only then did I notice how weak and sick I was. "Well, frankly speaking, Srila Prabhupada," I replied, "I feel a little tired." He already knew, and he immediately ordered grapes for me. He said that they were very good for strength and energy. Then he insisted that I eat the grapes in his presence. And after a minute or two, he asked if I was feeling stronger. And yes, I was. To work very hard for Krishna for 2 days, he concluded, and then to recuperate for 3 days, that is not a very good proposal. Another time, he encouraged me to dress better. He told me there is a saying, one who is known as a Brahmin doesn't have to wear a thread. People know you, and they also like you, but still, you should dress more nicely. One time Srila Prabhupada said that we eat things we like, so that's our own pleasure, but we dress for the pleasure of others. I never knew when he would give me an instruction, and whenever he did, I concentrated with my full attention and tried to commit to memory everything he said. But my method, he could see, wasn't the most reliable. To remember, he emphasized, means to remember to write it down. He added, you should always carry a pen and paper, and then told me something else that he wanted me to remember. Prabhupada knew my mind. I was always attracted to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and I imagined that one day I would be like them, roaming the forest of Vrindavan, chanting, Krishna, Krishna. But he was also concerned that his property be managed properly. And one evening he spoke to me about it. Raghunath Das managed his father's estate just like an expert businessman, he told me. Similarly, you should also manage your father's estate. Then go to Vrindavan and become a Goswami. Another night he explained to me the purpose of Gurukul in Krishna conscious children's education. We cannot expect that many of the students will stay in the temple, he said, but they should be trained so nicely that no matter what they do later in life, they will never forget Krishna. Then he told how he and his sister used to fly kites and pray to God to make their kites fly higher. They should be trained in such a nice way that no matter what they do in life, they will never forget God. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Comments? No questions? No comments? Any reflections, corrections, comments? Yes?
Hare Krishna. My question is, you are saying that they were distributing puri and halwa and all. So do the Americans, that they are not there on the Americans' diets. So all the students are liking the halwa and puri?
Oh, yes. Yes. In the St. Louis temple, where I'm from St. Louis, they had a restaurant, and the restaurant served rice, dal, sabji, chapatis. And for 30 years, the restaurant was the #1 vegetarian restaurant in the city of St. Louis. And they served rice, dal, sabji, chapatis, halwa, pakoras. So many people came to take this on.
So white Americans, they like to eat?
Yeah, they like to eat. Everybody likes to eat, right? But they like rice, dal, sabji, chapatis, halava, sweet rice, pakoras. There was even a salad bar. They like. And have you ever had buttermilk, strawberries, and orange juice? 50% of your life is wasted.
This Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he left India GBC position and went to America. Initially Prabhupada was not pleased. Then when Prabhupada went to America, then he said, you left the GBC position, what are you doing? Then Tamal Krishna Maharaj brought so many brahmacharis. Then he gave a report, so many books we are distributing. Then Prabhupada said, then it is okay.
Yeah, he also said that Jayatirtha is making a plan to defeat the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party in book distribution for the month of December. If he defeats, I think Tamal Krishna may have a heart attack. That was the mood, competition to please Srila Prabhupada. But then, who came as his replacement was Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And that time he was a householder, and most of the leaders here were sannyasis. Jayapataka Swami, Gargamuni Swami, Yashodanandan Swami, Achyutananda Swami, right? And here is this short guy, just came from America. Of course he was Indian. And it just seemed like how he would manage these American guys. But Srila Prabhupada knew one thing, that he will stay. Others may come and go, but he will stay. And that's obviously what happened, that he could stick it out, all the difficulties. And even to this day, through all the years, we have seen that whenever there was a problem, whenever there was an emergency, he was at the front to help to solve it. And later on we'll see that when they weren't getting permission to build Hare Krishna land, every day Gopal Krishna Maharaj, who at that time was a householder, was going downtown by train with Giriraj Swami and meeting various government officers in order to get permission. Finally, they met they went up to the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, S.P. Chauhan. So S.P. Chauhan, after meeting him and preaching to him, he worked things in such a way that they could get the NOC to build Hare Krishna land. So Yasomati Nandan told me one time that he went to Prabhupada to complain against Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Some issue he had. And after hearing the complaint, Prabhupada said, don't worry, he will do. So I think Prabhupada saw in him the ability to actually bring forward the Krishna consciousness movement here in India. And that actually we can see has happened. Any other points?
Hare Krishna. So you're mentioning that we have to tolerate the sufferings. Sometimes we see some devotees, they complain that so-and-so is harassing me. Then when I tell them, see, Prahlad Maharaj, he tolerated so many troubles. So the trouble you are getting is very less. So why can't you follow Prahlad Maharaj? Then they say that Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee, I am not. So how can I tolerate? So what should I tell them?
What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, become humble. Trinadapi sunichena, tururapi sahisnuna, amanena manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita said that a devotee who's aspiring to become a pure devotee should make a necklace of this verse and hang it around his neck. And what can we say, right? One has to learn how to tolerate. There'll always be some kind of anxiety. The anxiety has to be transferred for the mission of Krishna. Our anxiety should be for the mission of Krishna, the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And then all the other anxieties that come to us will seem very insignificant. But preaching is required. Devotees do get an anxiety. They don't know how to handle it, so therefore preaching is required.
Prabhuji. So in the devotion, should one be should have desires or no desires?
What's that?
In the devotion, one should have desires or no desires, because whatever we have just in the
If you don't have desires, you're dead.
good.
That you're alive means that you have some desire.
Thank you. Because there's a lot of confusion people get into. Okay, if I ask desires, then it's not a pure devotion. And that statement goes to the
No,
reverse.
but that desire should be for pure devotion.
Okay,
We should be desiring pure devotion.
yes.
Desirelessness does not exist. We have desires. But the desire should be for devotion to Krishna, love for Krishna. If we have some other desire, then that will further our anxiety. But if we have desire to serve Krishna and to serve Krishna better in a good way, then that's a purification. That will purify us. But this idea of the Mayavadis that we become desirelessness, that is not possible. Then that means, spiritual suicide, no desire. But we have to purify our desires so that we desire things for the pleasure of Krishna. When Lord Nityananda saw the two brothers, Jaghai and Madai, always drunk and fighting, and he thought in his mind, if we can deliver these two rascals, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reputation as Patita Pavana will certainly be established. Okay? So see his desire. His desire was that his master, Mahaprabhu, should be glorified. When we're neophytes, we're thinking we'll do some service, so I'll be glorified. It used to be that going out on book distribution, if you were number one, you would get the Maha plate. Right? So they were going out for the Maha plate. But after that, we should become more advanced. And that more advanced means I should do things to glorify Srila Prabhupada. I should try to do things to glorify RadhaRasbihariTemple, as Lord Nityananda was thinking to glorify Lord Chaitanya. We're on the neophyte stage, no doubt, but why should we stay on the neophyte stage? We should try to come up and understand what it means to come up. It doesn't mean to come up because you have a position. You can have 100 positions and still be a neophyte if you don't have the proper mentality. To develop the mentality, find out what the mentality should be, and try to emulate that. Ask for that. When we come before Krishna, ask him for that. Bring me to your pure devotion. Huh? Like Dhruva. Dhruva, he was looking for a kingdom greater than his grandfather's. Right? But when he actually got Krishna, he felt very sad that he was looking for pieces of broken glass, when now he's got actually the diamond, the darshan of the Lord. So, yes, we should see what we're desiring, try to analyze our desires properly so that they're channeled in the right direction. Otherwise, later on, we may feel that, oh, I spent so much time looking for pieces of broken glass. Hare Krishna. Yes, Hanuman Prabhu?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj did so much service for Srila Prabhupada by distributing books and serving SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple, Hare Krishna land, and with great difficulty he was working here so much, and he did lot of service. And after while his departure time, there was accident with his car, and then he left. It was sad thing. You can comment something about this?
That's what Giriraj Swami is saying in the book, what Prabhupada told him.
Ah,
Krishna is independent. Krishna can do as he likes.
yeah.
He was in the Dham,
Ah,
very fortunate.
Yeah.
It depends upon how you look at it. You may think, oh, he died by accident, that's not good. But he was in Sridham Mayapur,
yeah,
and the place is called Pulia,
yeah.
where Haridas Thakur used to live,
Oh,
in that cave, and was approached by the prostitute. That was in the same place.
yeah.
So he was in the Gora Mandala Bhumi,
Ah,
and Krishna took him back.
yeah.
I remember just before that accident happened, in his room every day he was having kirtan, hours and hours and hours, and many devotees would come and join the kirtan, and it went on for many days.
Yeah.
And he actually was supposed to go to Calcutta ahead. I had invited him to my house for prasada.
Oh,
He said, yes, I'll come.
oh,
And then at the same time that happened, Dairam Prabhu was put in jail by Adridarn.
oh. Hare Ram.
So he canceled his trip to go to Calcutta. Otherwise, he was supposed to go one day advance to Calcutta. He was going to take in my house, then go to Calcutta.
Yeah.
But because this happened, everything got canceled. His trip to Calcutta also got canceled.
Oh,
See, his flight was like 4 o'clock in the morning.
ah,
And so he was going to be in Calcutta. It's closer to the airport.
yeah.
So the driver, somehow or another, he had to leave from Mayapur because he didn't go to Calcutta. And the driver fell asleep.
Oh,
And you know, they ran into a tree. So on one side, it's tragic, but on the other side, he's in Sridham Mayapur.
yeah.
He left his body in the Holy Dham. And if you leave your body in the Holy Dham, you go back to Godhead.
Yeah. Jai, jai.
So in that sense, it's glorious. Okay?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.